Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a summer edition, off-season edition of the Ringer NBA show. I'm your host, Big Waz, a.k.a. Wosny Lambre, and I'm joined by my brother, my partner, all the way from New York City, Fred Katz of The Athletic. What's going on, brother?
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Man, they told me I could book a guest, and I'm like, what are the off-season stories that fascinate me? And I, not to be a New York City homer, I immediately thought about the Knicks and their offseason. And, I think they did a great job in free agency. We could get to that. But the coaching search became a story because it was unlike any coaching search I've ever seen before. Fred, have you ever seen something like this, Fred? You've been doing this for a minute,
It was strange. It was strange. I mean, look, I'll be honest. I wasn't completely shocked when they fired Tibbs. I was surprised. But it's not like it came out of nowhere, because I think heading into the playoffs, I think everybody around there kind of had the impression, if they lose to Detroit in the first round, coaching staff's going to be out. Because what we kind of forget when we talk about the Knicks having this great run, legitimately great run to the Eastern Conference Finals, and I think what any sane viewer would call a very successful season, it's a very positive step.
Successful season.
100%. Making the conference finals for the first time in 25 years. That's a great accomplishment with a roster that you can keep together for the long haul and a lot of really good players who fit well together. That's a great end of the season, and that's a great accomplishment. But what we kind of forget is that the regular season was, I don't want to call it a mess, because it wasn't a mess. They won 51 games, and for the most part, they were obviously a good team. But there were a lot of warts on that team during the regular season, where Mikal Bridges was just not looking like the guy who they hoped he could be on either side of the ball. They had weird fit issues. Karl Anthony Towns was not responding great to wings guarding him as the season progressed. And the Knicks were not responding great to when wings guarded Towns and put centers on Josh Hart. Their bench was a little shallow. That team had issues during the regular season. It was good. It was imperfect. And a lot of that was covered up by them playing an amazing series against Boston, and Mikal Bridges playing an incredible defensive series against Boston and Detroit. But going into the playoffs, really everybody around the team had the impression, okay, if they lose to Detroit, then coaching staff is out. And once they get to Boston, the impression was all right, they got to at least have a very competitive series against Boston, and then maybe we'll see what happens. But if they get the doors blown off them by Boston, that coaching staff definitely was paranoid it was going to be out. And then once they beat Boston, you would think, okay, you know what? They did the things they were supposed to do, and you're okay. And during that Indiana series, I'm still getting the impression that a lot of the people on that coaching staff are feels like the goalposts have moved a little bit. We gotta beat Indiana. There was nobody there who was all right, we're okay.
So that's interesting. I don't think I heard that in all of the reporting that's been out there. You got the sense that even after making the conference finals, internally, the coaching staff felt like this is do or die for us against the Pacers, because that's kind of not what we were hearing. I shouldn't say that. I think most of the New York media was like, Tibbs has kind of earned his right to make it to next season because, the regular season was sloppy. For me, you talked about the offensive fit issues. Tibbs has never been a creative offensive coach, so I didn't kind of expect them to have some incredible offense. I thought they kind of even overachieved a bit on that end last year when you consider all of the moving parts and all of the new things they had to incorporate. The defense was so piss poor. And that's when I was just like, so what is Tibbs doing for this team? Because we know it's not Mike D'Antoni, Steve Kerr, level offensive execution. And if they're not playing defense, what is Tibbs actually doing? But then in the playoffs, the defense kind of came together. And so I was like, hey, man, maybe they were just saving their energy for this moment and Tibbs is going to come. But to be sure, I was completely fine with the firing too.
I think the firing was only part of the move, right? I mean, I'm on the record of saying that I wouldn't have fired Tibbs just because the guy turned around the organization,
He did.
accomplished a ton, has a
Yes.
great dynamic with the star player of the team, and that is so important,
Yep.
right? Like that, it is so important that you have synergy between your head coach and your star player. That your star player backs your coach, and Jalen Brunson obviously has backed Tibbs since he was like 5 years old. Because Tibbs, he's known Tibbs. Literally, he has known Tibbs for so long that literally the first time he met Tibbs, he cannot remember because he was too young to retain memories. That's how
so
long
crazy.
he's known Tibbs, because Rick
That's
Brunson, his
crazy.
dad, played for Tibbs in the 90s and got incredibly close with him. And then Rick was an assistant with Tibbs with Chicago and in Minnesota and then in New York. And the whole family is just really, really close with Tibbs. Like they were so close that the Brunson family motto is "the magic is in the work." And the reason that's the Brunson family motto is because Tibbs used to say that to Rick when he
Oh my
coached him,
God.
and Rick stole it from him.
That's crazy.
So like Sandra Brunson, Jalen's mom, gets these shirts made up that say the magic is in the work. And it's like, and they're like, that's not a Tibbs thing for us. That's the family motto. So like Jalen was almost raised to play for Tibbs. So it's not a surprise that he then goes and plays for Tibbs. And one of the reasons that he went to New York was because he wanted to play for Tibbs.
Wow.
It's not a surprise that he goes to New York and Tibbs is the guy who makes him a star. You know, like not saying I'm not taking the credit away from Jalen. He did the work
but
and he
like,
became one.
yeah,
But it's not a surprise that it worked great, you know?
The synergy is obvious, and obviously Rick Brunson is on the staff. Everybody's talked about the familial dynamic of the New York Knicks, and that's what I want to talk to you about because you're there, and it was genuinely shocking to me when you think about how the Knicks have put this together on this sort of La Familia. It's a family. It's, blood in, blood out, blah, blah, blah kind of thing that they've done with Leon Rose and Worldwide West and Thibodeau and the CAA and the Nova Knicks. And even though they got rid of DiVincenzo, but like, it felt like Tibbs was a made man over there. Like, how do you explain their decision to, like, aside from the off-court stuff, on court, excuse me. How do you explain their decision to go anti what's been what's felt like the organizing principle and ethos of the Leon Rose regime?
I think it is a number of factors, to be honest. I think James Dolan was very supportive of the decision, and he was sitting in on end of season exit interviews, which is not necessarily the norm for an owner to do in those situations. And I think he was somebody who helped lead that decision for sure. I think there were certain players in the locker room who didn't see his eye to eye with Tibbs. Like 2 years ago, that team that lost to Indiana in the second round in 7 when everybody got hurt, they had a ton. That was a Tibbs team.
Yeah.
Like Dante DiVincenzo. It's so funny to me that like Dante and Rick Brunson and Tibbs all had their thing in the preseason game earlier last year. And it was such a thing of like, oh, Dante's pissed at Tibbs. Man, Dante DiVincenzo loves Tibbs more than either of us love like our own mothers.
Gotcha.
It is crazy how much Dante DiVincenzo loves Tibbs. I'll tell this story because I don't think he would mind me telling this story. So every year The Athletic does a anonymous player poll. And one of the questions is always, which coach would you least like to play for? And this year we actually changed the question to who do you think is the worst coach? But when it was which coach would you least like to play for, Tibbs would win that poll. So apparently this year, when Minnesota players were polled, when Dante was already on Minnesota, Dante would follow around the reporters who were taking the answers. when it got to your coach question, Dante would be like, "You motherfucker, you better not say Tom Thibodeau. He's the fucking best." Like he was gatekeeping Tibbs.
Wow.
Like that guy loves Tibbs. Would play for him in a second because Dante is honestly different personality type than Tibbs, same values, same mentality, same approach to work as Tibbs. And so he loves that. He loves a guy who meets him at his level because he's such an absurd competitor. And Hartenstein was not really a Tibbs guy his first year with the Knicks, I don't think. And then he started to listen to him and he was like, damn, everything this guy tells me ends up being right. Maybe I should just do that. And he got way better. And then he was really behind him. He had a roster that was really behind him. I don't think Tibbs ever really worked great with Mikal Bridges. I don't think the basketball fit optimized great. I've always said Tibbs, when this is true for basically every coach, I think, say for maybe Eric Spoelstra or something like that. We talk about coaches like this guy's a good coach, this guy's a bad coach. I think the reality is most guys who are good enough coaches to be NBA head coaches are great coaches for some people, good coaches for some people, bad coaches for other people, and horrible coaches for other people. And Tibbs was an amazing coach for Jalen Brunson, an amazing coach for Dante DiVincenzo. I don't think he was a great coach for Mikal Bridges. And I think you bring in certain people, maybe not an amazing coach for OG Anunoby. I know like those guys had disagreements on certain things. And like, I think when you have that sort of dynamic that can change from year to year, I think the Knicks felt like they needed a change there. The minutes were definitely a thing. I know Tibbs always pushed against it, but the minutes were definitely a thing.
He was proven wrong about the minutes. Like, he started playing like, look, Delon Wright, he's not a great player, but he started getting minutes and it was fine. Like, there was no issue when he finally decided to play these dudes. It was like, yeah, Tibbs, like, you should have been doing this. Like, he was ultimately proven wrong of his own theory when he finally relented. These guys weren't a tire fire. It was completely okay when these guys came in.
Actually, you know what? I don't know if I agree.
Really?
Yeah, I think he was in some ways proven right because they went the whole year playing guys a ton of minutes.
Oh my God. So they
had no major injuries. They were the healthiest team in the playoffs.
Fair.
And they made the conference finals in part because their good players played more. Like, in part because OG Anunoby played a lot and he's really freaking good at basketball and he's better than whoever's behind him and he played more and he ended up being okay. Look, there's some stuff with the minutes with Tibbs that I was like, all right, that's a lot. Like I remember, I will never forget being at Knicks Hornets in December and the Knicks were up 24. And it was one of those games where like Knicks take a huge lead early and the game's just over in the first quarter and they just coast the rest of the way. Knicks are up 24 with 1:30 left and Tibbs pulls Mikal Bridges. And it was the first time he pulled him in the whole game. He had played 46 and a half consecutive minutes in a game the Knicks were up 24. And I was like, that is not necessary. To me, the issue with the minutes with Tibbs was always the consecutive minutes. It was the long stretches because that's when you're tired and that's when you land funny on an ankle or whatever else. But like Knicks won games in part because they played really good players more than other teams played really good players.
But to me, that's an indictment of the coaching though. Like the idea, like if when your best players play, you're not dominant, like, and the team was made to be dominant when those groups get together, that's an indictment, like, to me, right? Like, when you think about the Nuggets starting lineup or you think about OKC's best lineup, when you think about the top teams, when they play their best guys, those lineups are dominant. And that wasn't the case for the Knicks. So to me, it's like you're making up for something by doing that. Like the reason you have to do that is because you haven't made this group coalesce in a way that it's unnecessary. And that's why to me it's like Tibbs, like, y'all not even blowing people off the court when you do this. Like, just play some other guys. Whatever. So
Yeah,
go ahead.
that's fair. I mean, look, to me, that's actually a different conversation where there's the minutes, which is just total minutes guys play. And then there's the distribution of minutes. And I think the distribution of minutes was a problem. Like that starting lineup was not as good as it should have been, or at least it's not as good as it could have been. And what we saw is that's those 5 guys playing together for more than any other fivesome in the league for the whole year. And we didn't see experimentation of 5 out very much. We didn't see Deuce McBride play in the Josh Hart spot. Like that if you take out Josh Hart from the starting lineup and put in Deuce McBride, that lineup played almost never.
Crazy.
All season. And that kind of stuff. To me, it's less about the total minutes and more about the distribution of minutes and the wanting to try out lineups. And when you have a team that's a really good team that you know is making the playoffs, that you know is going to win anywhere from 48 to 55 games, I would rather win 49 and know exactly what all of my best lineup combinations are and be able to have as much data as possible on every single possible lineup combination and on every single player. I would rather have that heading into the playoffs than win 54 and know that my starting lineup has played twice as many minutes as any other lineup in the league, and it's not that good. They're, +5 per 100 possessions, which is solid. But in order for that team to be awesome, that starting lineup had to wreck teams, and it didn't. And they didn't find remedies for that. And I'm with you on that. 100%. I think Mike Brown is probably going to experiment more with that kind of stuff and probably build more of a sample on things.
We're gonna get to Mike Brown. And we've dumped on Tibbs enough and his shortcomings. You don't think he should have got fired? I'm okay with the move, but like it's with caveats. Here's my problem with the move. Why I think it's a problem. I'm old enough to remember when the Knicks go out and get their guy. Meaning, you have a fucking crap team. You go out and give Larry Brown $40 million. A shit team. You're like, yo, this is like the best pure basketball coach in the league. He's a New York guy. Let's go blow him out the water with an offer. Bring him to fucking Madison Square Garden. Same with D'Antoni. Same with Phil fucking Jackson. They had to beg this guy to get out of retirement, to do a job he never did, paid the shit out of him, broke records to do so. Now, Boston is down. The Pacers are cooked. You just went to the conference finals. Why the fuck are we not doing this for Eric Spoelstra? Why aren't we doing this for Steve Kerr? Why aren't we getting the best fucking coach in America to come coach what is clearly a championship level, NBA finals level type of team? That's why I'm just like, the Tibbs thing is so stupid. What are you doing this for? If it's not to do that, I don't understand this coaching, like, sort of process. It makes no sense to me. Like, why not just go to the Miami? He'd be like, yo, Mickey Arison, what's it gonna take? We're willing to guarantee $140 million for Eric Spoelstra. 7 years, $20 million a pop. We're willing to make this guy the highest paid coach ever. What do you want for that, Mickey Arison? Let's do a deal. Let's go out and get the best. Yo, Steve Kerr, you already got 4 rings. You already did X, Y, and Z. Come find a new challenge in New York. We're going to pay the hell out of you. Fucking Joe Lacob be playing with you negotiation-wise. He be treating you like you ain't nobody. Come to New York. We're going to pay the fuck out of you. Like, why are we, like, we're trying to get interviews with Ime Udoka? Like, what the fuck was this process, Fred Katz? I'm sorry.
I don't think any of those guys were available. Like, I don't
believe in that.
think if you call, like, they did try to do that. Like, they tried to do that with
that?
They tried that with Ime Udoka.
Okay.
Like, Ime Udoka is a great coach. We can agree Ime Udoka is an awesome coach.
I don't know that he's what the Knicks need, but sure. Yeah.
But he goes to a place and that team plays discipline and plays hard and guards and all of a sudden becomes smart. You remember what the Rockets were before Ime Udoka got there?
Dude.
They were the most undisciplined team in the NBA, and it wasn't even close.
You want to hear something funny about the Rockets before Ime got there? I remember the Warriors played them, and in the post game, Draymond Green was like, at a certain point, like he was sticking up for Silas. He was like, at a certain point, players have to not be stupid. Like, that's literally what he said after playing the Rockets. Like, this is one of the dumbest teams I've never seen a player defend the opposing coach in a post-game press conference to be like, no, like, these dudes are playing like knuckleheads. So you're 100% right.
And then Ime Udoka gets there, and they're like one of the most disciplined teams in the NBA.
Yes.
And they're really good.
Yes.
And the talent is all developing. And they're smart. They are disciplined. They run a beautiful system defensively. They're awesome. And it helps to have Amen Thompson. But they are awesome. Ime Udoka is great. And he did the same thing in Boston. Takes over in Boston, and it's like, holy crap, this team guards, this team plays gorgeous basketball. Ime Udoka is great. And they called on Ime Udoka. I think the Rockets very unkindly told them to go screw themselves. And that was it. I don't think any of these teams were amenable to it. I don't know if they made a call on Erik Spoelstra. I would bet an unbelievable amount of money that if they just they wouldn't have an opportunity to offer Erik Spoelstra anything. That like if like James Dolan called Mickey Harrison, or if Leon Rose called Pat Riley and was like, what can we do to get Erik Spoelstra? I like Pat Riley. I can't even imagine. Pat Riley would say something so foul that neither of us could even think up. It's Pat Riley. Like, neither of us could even think up what it would be. So I don't think you're getting that guy. Like, I think what they felt like they needed was less than an upgrade in a vacuum. Because, like, I think Mike Brown is a very good coach. He's had a lot of success.
I'm a fan of Mike Brown.
He's a good coach.
I'm going to get into my problem with the hire, but like, I'm a fan of Mike Brown's coaching.
And Tibbs is a good coach.
Yes.
Both guys have had success everywhere they've been. Let's say they're in the same tier of coaching. We can debate who's better, but let's say they're around
in the same tier. Yeah.
Around the same tier, right? I think what the Knicks felt like they needed, less than an upgrade in a vacuum, less than like Erik Spoelstra is the best coach in the league. Erik Spoelstra is one of the greatest coaches like in any sport of all time. He's unbelievable. He's obviously in a different tier than probably anybody in the NBA. I think what the Knicks felt like they needed wasn't necessarily, we need an upgrade from Tibbs on, like, if you do the rankings of the best coaches, we need somebody higher than Tibbs. What we need is somebody who's going to have a different approach and a different voice. Somebody who's going to be able to figure out the stuff with Bridges. Somebody who's going to be able to figure out the stuff with OG. Somebody who's going to be able to maybe experiment more in the regular season when we know this roster is very good and we don't care if we win 50 games in the regular season or if we win 54. What we want to have is this entire set of data on all the lineups that work and all the players that work. And we want to see if Deuce McBride with the starters works and that kind of stuff. So we're not just kind of throwing shit at the wall during the playoffs and seeing if DeLon Wright sticks. Like, I think that's what they wanted. They wanted somebody who I think was more collaborative, specifically even with the coaching staff. They wanted more of a influx and a flow of ideas, I think, from the coaching staff up to the coach. And I know that's how Mike Brown operated in Sacramento. And that was something they were very impressed with. In some ways, Mike Brown is very similar to Tibbs. Mike Brown practices more than Tibbs does. People think Tibbs practices all the time. Tibbs requires people to physically be there because what he does is he does like these walkthroughs and he does longer film sessions than usual. And his practices and his walkthroughs and his shoot arounds are very mentally strenuous. He quizzes players. Like he'll be like, all right, he'll draw something up on the whiteboard during a walkthrough or during a film session. And he'll just be like, all right, Jalen, what play is this? And that the other team runs. Like upcoming opponent, you got no top 5 most run plays. You got no Jalen, what play is this? Josh, what play is this? And he'll just run it and you got to get it right. Like his practices are very, very, you got to be locked in, and they're very like intellectually stimulating. It's like going into a really intense, advanced class with a really intense and passionate and strict professor. Mike Brown practices a lot and like practices for real. He wants to go live. Like Tibbs almost never goes live. Like Mike Brown wants to go live. He wants to practice a lot. He's very defense oriented. He's super detail oriented. He's very obsessive about that kind of stuff. There are a lot of things that are very similar about Mike Brown that there are to Tibbs. And to be clear, those are all great traits for a coach. I love all those traits in a coach. Like having traits similar to Tibbs, that's great. Tibbs is really good.
Yeah.
He's really good.
I hear everything you're saying on Mike Brown, and I did want to get into the qualities of Mike Brown. I'm just saying, just to put a bow on it, like, yes, I know in practice, Eric Spoelstra and Steve Kerr aren't available. I just know when you got the money in business and in the NBA, with these guys are like all in league with each other. If you really, really, really set your mind on making it happen, I think it could have happened. Of course, it would have cost you, right? You would have had to convince Spoelstra or Kerr to start tugging on that end themselves. It's not going to just be some passive thing where it's like we knock on the door and Mickey Arison answers and we're just like, hey, can Eric come outside to play? No. You would have had to be in cahoots with Spoelstra and his representation or Kerr and his representation. You couldn't have pulled it off on your own. I just think where there's a will, there's a way, particularly with the coaching stuff, where there aren't these hard and fast rules like a salary cap and a collective bargaining agreement, et cetera, et cetera. There's ways to paint outside the lines. And for whatever reason, the Knicks decided for this team, it's not worth it. Mind you, you already paying the shit out of OG. You already gave up 7 first-round picks for Bridges, but for the coach, we're just going to passively play it safe. I don't understand that approach, Fred. I get it. I like Mike Brown, and I'm going to get into that. I just think this approach is weird when you consider the way that they've gone about doing this roster, going out and getting talents. And like, it just felt so gun-shy to me for a team that's so obviously all in. It's weird, but I want to get into, before we get into Mike Brown and the qualities that he brings, another reason why I'm unsure about the hire is these dudes, particularly Brunson specifically, he's now been made into probably the biggest athlete in the #1 media market in the world, right? He's beyond a star. He is something beyond that. He's gotten there by playing a particular way that, in my opinion, is suboptimal for Knicks team success. 60% usage in clutch time by a 5'11" guard is a mistake. I'm sorry. I get it. It's made Jalen Brunson into who he is, but I don't think the Knicks can win a championship playing like that. And the idea that Mike Brown is going to be the one to come in and tell that dude that he needs to do something, I think, radically different, you're going to have to sell that to me, Fred Katz. Mike Brown's going to be the one? That's why I think bringing somebody in with some level of gravitas and a pedigree that even the players, even Jalen Brunson, has to be like, hold on now, this is Steve Kerr. This is not Greg Popovich, but you get what I'm saying. This is X, Y, and Z. I might have to listen to this. Why are they going to listen to Mike Brown? And if they're not, that means they're just going to do the same shit they did last year. That's my issue with the Brown hire. And tell me why I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't agree with you. And I'll tell you why. I think that might be true for certain stars in the league. That's just not how Jalen Brunson operates. Jalen is so obsessed with winning, so psychopathically competitive in a way that is not individually oriented. I think Jalen played that way not because that's how he plays. I think Jalen played that way because that was how it was coached. And that's what he thought was the best way for them to win in that moment. I'll tell you something. So 2 years ago, Julius Randle gets hurt in a game against the Miami Heat, dislocates his shoulder, out for the year. The Knicks had to reorient their offense after that because Randle was their outlet in a lot of places, right? Like, this was Brunson's second year with the Knicks, and it's really Brunson's team at this point. Brunson runs the offense, but Randle is the outlet. Randle gives them a second way to get into the paint. He can post guys up, he can drive, and he was having a good year. Actually, a really good year. Made an all-star team. He was having a really good year for them. And with no Randle, teams could just load up on Brunson. So what did the Knicks do? They changed the way that they use Jalen Brunson. He's always been good running around screens off the ball. They started using him way more running around screens. So I'm looking at the numbers right now. So Randle gets hurt on January 27th of that season. After January 27th of that season, Jalen Brunson ran around. Let's see. Jalen Brunson ran around 715 off-ball screens. How many players in the NBA ran around more off-ball screens during that time?
Steph Curry.
Nope. You're close. What is Steph's teammate?
Klay Thompson?
Not anymore his teammate. Klay Thompson. That's the only guy.
Person. Wow.
That's the only guy. Jalen ran around the second most off-ball screens in the league for the rest of that season. And it worked. They were able to get him the ball around curls. He was able to play make off of those.
You're getting me excited about the next season, Fred Katz.
He was able to get to his floater. He was really good at it. And why did he do it? Because Tibbs came to him and said, I think with Julius out, this is the best way to use you. And Jalen said, okay, sure. With Jalen, the only thing he cares about, he is very, very, very smart when it comes to basketball. And he thinks like a coach because he's the son of a coach. A lot of sons of coaches are like this. A lot of sons of coaches think this way. And so with Jalen, I don't think it matters who gives him the message. And I think it barely matters how someone gives him the message because he's able to take things very harshly and he's able to take things that he doesn't want things sugarcoated to him. He wants the full message in order to get better. And if you want to know why, all you got to do is go look up the video of his dad coaching him when he was like 12 years old. And his dad saying things to him that nobody has ever said to anybody else ever. And you're like, oh my goodness, how is he able to deal with this? So Jalen can be coached in any way because of the way that he was raised and because of that. And with Jalen, the way that you get him to buy into something is you tell him something that's really smart. And then you show him, here's why I think it's going to work. And you show him the plan and you map it out and you show him the video and you pull out the clipboard and you show him everything. And you say, this is what I think is going to work. This is the best way to win. And if you're smart, and Jalen's going to ask follow-up questions and they're going to be smart follow-up questions. And if you've got good answers and you're smart and you're thinking it's going to work, Jalen's going to be like, this is great. I'm in. So I don't think Jalen gives a crap whether, first of all, I do think you're kind of underselling Mike Brown. Like,
no. I'm gonna get into Mike Brown. Mike Brown
he's not a first-time head coach.
Bro, like Mike Brown. I'm not saying I personally think if Mike Brown is allowed to coach, the Knicks are going to be a way better team than they were last year. I really do personally think that. If you watch his evolution as a coach when he took over Sacramento, spending all that time in Golden State, you watch Sacramento's offense. It's way prettier than everything the Knicks did last year. And this is with goddamn Domantas Sabonis. I mean, Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, who I like. Those two guys are not in the same planet of offensive talent of Karl Towns. And like, it's not even close. And what he was able to do with them, I'm in on Mike Brown. But I know NBA players aren't always in on the guys that me and you like, Fred. They have these weird things where it's like, I'm not listening to that guy. I'm not, what the fuck does he know? But like, they have these weird things. They will get a coach fired because they don't think a coach knows what he's doing. I'm just saying Mike Brown doesn't come in as unimpeachable. You know, like there is a way to sort of poo-poo what he's done. I'm not saying that I would personally do that, but we know that players, for whatever reason, will see a guy and be like, this ain't it, and do whatever they feel like doing. That's all I'm saying.
Totally. I'll tell you this.
And
I can
also,
tell you this with
I want to say this one last thing so I can let you go.
Yeah.
I love to have my mind changed, and Fred Katz is slowly turning me on the New York Knicks season right now.
You're right. You're totally right with what you're saying. I'm just saying I don't think that concept is
applies
specific
to
to
Jalen Brunson.
I don't think it applies to Jalen Brunson. He thinks differently.
I
He's
love
a different kind of guy. He's a different kind of guy. And I think he cares about three things. And if you meet those three things, he will back you. Number one, are you going to do what's best for the team over what's best for the individual? If you do what's best for the individual, you're going to piss him off. Number two, are you going to meet his work ethic? Are you going to be there working as hard as he is every second? And if you're not, he's not going to be happy about that. And if you are, he will take you under his wing. He's, for example, really close with Deuce McBride because Deuce McBride is a worker and he's a competitor and he shows up every day and he's a very unselfish teammate. And he never complains about not getting time with the starters or anything like that. Nobody knows how Deuce McBride feels about that. Nobody knows because he never has said anything and he wouldn't. And he's very close with Deuce McBride because of that.
Was not the case with the previous
away.
young Nick Cruz. That wasn't the case with IQ and RJ Barrett.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think IQ was actually IQ never really said that much. It's not like he was in there being like, I need more time. I need this. However, it became clear that he wanted to get paid like a starter. And when he was playing 24 minutes a game in his last year with the Knicks, that just wasn't really going to happen. And so there was a disconnect there. But I wouldn't say he was like a
bitching
problem
all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't like a problem. Like there wasn't anyone in that locker room who like didn't like him or anything like that. But they were also like, it was more of a vibe with Quickly of like, yeah, he wants to get paid. And then they were like, yeah, of course he wants to get paid. He's good. Like it was like guys being like, yeah, I get it. Like, why wouldn't you want to get paid? Like, I want to get paid too.
But we have Jalen Brunson.
Right, but we have Jalen. Like, they were more just like, yeah, it sucks for him. That sucks for him, you know? But like, I don't think there was any ill will to him for him on a personal level because I don't think he ever acted like there are guys who want to get paid and they become unprofessional.
Yeah,
I've never heard any stories about him being unprofessional or anything like that. But
everybody
he was a notoriously really hard worker and stuff.
Everybody knew where he stood.
But everybody knew where he stood. So like he wanted to get paid. And then he did. And he got paid more than anybody thought he was going to get paid too. And with Jalen, it's the three things. It's are you going to meet my work ethic? Are you going to do what's best for the team all the time? And then it's, are you going to have a level of like detail orientation and care for what you do? Mike Brown is really detail oriented. I wrote a story a couple months ago about kind of like his very obsessive compulsive tendencies, not just in basketball, but like in life. He's very, very detail oriented. I think that will actually mesh well with Brunson. Those are the things that he cares about. And if you can get him on that, Like he'll buy in. Like he really just wants to. There's a reason why they made him the captain. It's not because he's the best player on the team. It's because of his
His
personality,
approach, yeah.
those traits, his
So
approach.
to me, Mike Brown, job number one is this idea that Karl Towns can be some kind of decoy or some kind of afterthought in how you attack the best defenses that just can't be. And for too much of the Knicks' most important possessions of the season, Karl Towns was a non-factor. And I just think that was suboptimal, man. Like, it's not just that you're paying him that much. It's like what he actually has to offer. He has way more to offer to an offense than what the Knicks were asking of him last year. And to me, that's a Thibodeau thing, right? And again, it's like, well, we rode in on the Jalen ship. We're gonna sink with the Jalen ship. To an extent, I get that. And Jalen, like, let's not make no mistake. Like, this guy is the best clutch player in the fucking NBA. Like, I understand the tendency to run towards that. You can't be the best team in the East playing that way. Like, this can't be 2001 Iverson and the fucking Pips. Like, you have Karl Towns on your team. You have OG. You have Mikal, who's now paid up, right? Like, there needs to be a focus on incorporating all of these guys. And Mike Brown, to his credit in Sacramento, man, like, they did have a more sort of the ball finds energy approach to offense, which I personally have more of a taste for than what Brunson is doing in the clutch, where he's pounding the shit out the rock possession after possession. And so talk to me about, like, what you think Mike Brown is going to do differently, because the Knicks, like, and that's why I got to give it up to Leon and them. Like, they saw it. We all could see it. It's like the best teams don't play like this. Indiana doesn't play like this. OKC doesn't play like this. Denver doesn't play like this. And so I'm happy that the front office had the vision to be like, what we're watching isn't championship quality. How is Mike Brown going to address these issues?
Well, I think it's also not just Mike Brown. It's also like Chris Gent, assistant who we brought in, who's going to be responsible for a lot of the offense and is really well respected. It's going to be Ricky Foy, who's another guy who's been with Mike Brown before, who's almost it's very analytically slanted. They're retaining a good amount of assistant coaches, but they have a number of assistant coaches too that are going to be doing it. And I think one of the things that they liked about Mike Brown was that you mentioned that offense in Sacramento. So it was 2022, I guess, Mike Brown's first year in Sacramento, where he goes there and that team makes the playoffs for the first time since, the Van Buren
since
administration.
Hedo Turkoglu, yeah.
Yeah, Hedo Turkoglu. It's like Monroe Doctrine. So they make the playoffs for the first time in forever, and they have the number one ranked offense in the league. And it was the most efficient offense of all time based on points per possession. And Mike Brown will be
and
the
their
first
starting
to tell
center
you.
was Domantas Sabonis.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't love this whole shitting on Domantas Sabonis thing, by the way.
It's a bit I've been doing for 3 years.
Domantas Sabonis has his flaws, but holy crap. That dude can pass, and he is so strong.
Yeah, he plays hard. He has a great motor. He does.
And he's so strong.
Yeah.
Like, there is a reason he's led the league in rebounds 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
He is
He's a
so
good player.
strong. How many centers can grab a defensive rebound, lead a fast break, and it's like what you want. It's like, oh shit. That defense is screwed.
He's not on the same planet of offensive players, Karl Towns. They're not.
No, he's not as good as Karl Towns.
It's not even like I'm talking about just offensively. What you bring to the table is just like there's no contest.
No, I'm not arguing he's not as good as Karl Anthony Towns. I'm just saying
you make the best offense in the league out of Domantas Sabonis. And you deserve some credit.
And he's Jewish.
Sabonis is?
Yeah, he just converted.
Oh my God.
There is finally, between him and Denny Avdia, we finally have some good basketball players in the NBA.
Somebody get Omri Caspi on the line, man.
No, forget about it. That was all we had before. All we had was Omri Caspi, and we had like Dolph Shays in the 1950s. Now we've actually got Sabonis.
You had Jordan Farmar. Jordan Farmar.
Yeah, no, Sabonis, the all-star, all-NBA player. Denny Avdia is really good.
Denny Avdia is good. Be very happy that you mentioned him.
Denny Avdia is really good. We got two legit good Jewish players, and I'm very, very excited about that. It's really inspiring.
Claiming Sabonis is crazy right now, Fred Katz, but we're gonna allow it. We're gonna allow it.
But so Mike Brown goes into that team. And they start running it really around Sabonis, right? Mm-hmm. Like that whole offense is about De'Aaron Fox getting downhill off of Sabonis dribble handoffs. And part of the reason they have that offense is because it's not really, I mean, it is a Mike Brown thing. Don't get me wrong. He implements it. But he's got two assistants there. Jay Triano, who's now in Dallas and has been a head coach before. Yep. And Jordy Fernandez, who's now
well-respected.
Now the head coach of the Nets.
Jordy Fernandez, another guy who I swear by, like, I think he is a fantastic coach.
He did a really, really good job. He did too good of a job last year.
Facts.
Like, he screwed him.
Facts.
He screwed his own team. He was too good. They were like, oh, crap. First time head coach, we thought there'd be a learning curve. This guy's just winning games with nothing off the bat. The gate. Yeah, no, he's really good. And so Jordy Fernandez and Jay Triano were very, very instrumental in putting together that offense. And Mike Brown was for a lot of his career, he was a defensive guy. Mm-hmm. When he first went to Golden State as a assistant, he actually technically ran the offense. However, I've spoken to people from Golden State during that time, and they certainly don't. I mean, people there speak incredibly highly of Mike Brown.
People love Mike Brown over there.
Yeah.
In the Bay.
Yeah. They certainly don't mean this as a slight, but basically what they've said to me is like, yeah, Mike Brown went there, but like we already kind of had this unbelievable offense already intact, like running the offense. It's not like he built it from scratch. His job was.
It's not really about building it, Fred. It's like understanding principles and concepts of why and what is working and how you get it to, and like watching it every day and be like, oh, that's why this thing works, and being able to take that and apply it somewhere else in a different context. Like, I don't need the guy to be, the inventor of 7 seconds or less, right? Like, you don't need to be some revolutionary offensive mind, but he's there every day and clearly gaining understanding about what makes quality offensive basketball.
Yep, for sure. And the reason why I bring up the assistants and stuff is because I know part of the reason why the Knicks liked Mike Brown was because of that collaboration stuff. Mm. And when people hear collaboration, they think collaboration with the front office. And that's part of it. But there's also collaboration with the players, and there's collaboration with your coaching staff. And Mike Brown was able to say, all right, Jay Triano and Jordy Fernandez came up with this offense. This looks real good. I'm going to implement that. That's better than what I came up with. And I'm going to recognize that. I'm going to have the self-awareness and the humility to recognize that and do that. And I'll handle the stuff I'm really good at. The stuff that is not as much my strength, because nobody's perfect, I'm going to recognize it's not as much my strength. I'm going to hire people who are going to work with me, who are going to be really good at those things. And I'm going to let them do it. And I'm smart enough to be able to recognize, okay, this is good or this is bad. I know enough to be able to recognize something's good, to recognize something's not good when I see it. And I know enough to be able to ask the questions. Mike Brown is known as a pretty collaborative coach. And one of the things that I spoke to one of his former assistant coaches, and he was telling me, what you have to do is if you have an idea, he always wants you to come up to him with the idea. But what he does is his practice is he will then ask you ridiculously difficult follow-up questions to your idea to make sure that you have, and he's not doing it to be a jerk.
No, he's so doing it. You actually have thought this through.
Yep. He wants to know that you've gone like 12 layers deep on this, because that's how he expects guys to be, which is, by the way, why I expect him and Jalen
to
Brunson
mesh well.
to mesh, because they have similar approaches there. And so if you can do that and you can go those 12 layers deep, he'll be like, okay. And then he might be like, we're doing your idea.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it will fall on kind of how he comes up with this stuff with his staff as well, which he's still in the process of hiring. I expect them to hire at least one or two other people.
I mean, it's getting kind of late, bro. Like, it's about to be September.
They hired it late.
Yeah, fair.
You know, like they didn't fire Tibbs until June because they had such a late run. It's an unusual timeline because it was an unusual firing. Normally, a firing happens, team doesn't make the playoffs.
In April,
fire him in middle of April, and then you do it, and it's like, I don't think they're going to hire like a high up number one assistant. Sure. I think that's Chris Jett, but like I think they're going to add at least one or two other people to their staff. I think they're going to add a analytics person to their staff, would be my guess. I know that's something Mike Brown values. They had somebody last year who worked closely with Tibbs on that, but he left. And so I think they're going to hire somebody to replace there. They had another analytics person leave too. I don't know what they're going to do about that, but I think they're going to bring in some more people, and it's going to depend on the staff. But I imagine the offense will look different. And I also wonder, like, the stuff, Towns was unbelievable in the first half of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the year went on, teams started to realize, let's just put wings on him. And that's something that teams have always done.
Mm-hmm.
And they always did it when they had elite smalls. So like Boston would always do it because Boston would put Tatum on him. Boston
it's almost like the
Dirk
principle, basically, with Towns.
Yeah, Porzingis gets that treatment too. Mm-hmm. Boston would do it with Drew Holiday. What I always thought was kind of the change in tone was at the end of 2024, end of December, the Knicks played 2 games in Washington against the Wizards, and they won both those games. Towns had huge games in both those games, but Justin Champagnie guarded him for both of those games. And that to me was like the first time where I was like, oh, like there's a team doing this, and they're doing it with a guy who's not
very
elite. Good. Yeah, they're not doing it. Teams were doing it when they had a guy who was, an awesome wing defender. Mm-hmm. Houston did it with Dylan Brooks guarded him. Like Dylan Brooks is competitive as hell. Say what you want about Dylan Brooks.
No,
I don't think anyone's ever accused him of not fighting hard and being physical, and that dude can guard. And so like that, those are the types, Drew Holiday, those are the types that were doing it. And that was the first time we saw a team do it because they were just like, we're going to put a wing on him. And what happens is when Town has a wing on him, the Knicks started running pick and rolls. There was a center guarding Josh Hart. The Knicks would run pick and rolls at the center. So Brunson would start running more pick and rolls with Josh Hart than he would with Towns. And Towns would kind of be absent from the offense. At the end of the year, I did a story. I went through every single Knicks game. I counted whether Towns had a wing or a small as his primary defender or a wing as his primary defender. And I went through the pick and roll data for each of the games. And in games where there was a big as Towns' primary defender, he ran 27 pick and rolls per 100 possessions, or per game, I should say. And when he had a small as his primary defender, he only ran 16 pick and rolls. So 11 fewer. It was almost in half.
To me, that's crazy because the guy who's guarding Jalen Brunson, you want him to switch on the Towns. That's something you should invite. Like, I don't know. Again, whatever. I'm not an NBA coach. We can get into that later in the season, and we'll see how it goes. But just, to sort of tie up on the Mike Brown thing, again, like when my Knicks fan friends were hitting me about the hire, I was like, I think Mike Brown is a good-ass coach. I think if he's allowed to coach the team, that they will be better. I don't know that he will be allowed to. Fred Katz is up here telling me today, take it to the bank. He's going to be allowed to implement his shit. The guys he's gonna have a level of buy-in from day one. And I think that's incredible. I think Knicks fans should be excited about that. I just want to get you out of here because I do want to get you on the record, man. What is an acceptable outcome of the Knicks season?
I have two answers. So after the Knicks fired Tibbs, the front office put out a very short statement that said that they were, quote, singularly focused on winning a title. And the reason that they made the change to move on from Tom Thibodeau was because they were singularly focused on winning a title, and they felt like this was the move they had to make in order to accomplish that. Which you don't have to read between the lines to say the Knicks think this is a title team,
Mhm.
and their coach is holding them back from being a
Mhm.
title team. Now, I will say, I don't agree with that.
Okay.
I
Me
don't agree.
neither.
I think there are tons of coaches who are labeled as you can't win a title with this guy. And then they win a title, and then we're like, that's a championship winning coach. Michael Malone, you couldn't win a title with him. He was too
Yeah.
rigid. Mike Budenholzer, you couldn't win a title with him. He was too rigid. I mean, Doc Rivers got the full treatment. Doc Rivers, you couldn't win a title with him. Then he won a title. Then it was like Doc Rivers is a championship winning coach. And now we're like, Doc Rivers, you can't win a
he's-
title with him. Doc Rivers has gone
Yeah.
in a million different
It's like a
directions in
horseshoe.
terms
Yeah.
of reputation.
Mhm.
Yeah, 100%. Frank Vogel, same
Mhm.
thing. Can't win a title with Frank Vogel. And then you win a title with Frank Vogel. And I would put Tibbs in that category as a guy you can't win a title with until you actually win a
So
title.
you
with.
disagree in the idea that Tibbs is a guy that you can't win a title with? Okay.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
But you agree with the
I-
idea that the Knicks have a championship roster? I
No.
don't really agree with that.
I don't. I don't agree with that. I think they have a really good roster. And I think they have a roster that could win the title. But I don't think they're the best team in the league. Like
No.
Oklahoma City's the best team in the league. That being said, from the Knicks' perspective, because they put out that statement, the organization has to say, like, if they don't at least make the finals, then they didn't meet their goal because they explicitly said their goal. And that was it. And quite honestly, I thought it was a swipe at Tibbs, and that man did so much for that organization and took so much heat for things of that organization when nobody else would talk publicly. I didn't love that. I thought it was unnecessary. I didn't really like that in that statement. I will say a successful season for them is, it depends on how good Cleveland is. I'm going to probably pick them to win the East.
Pick who? Cleveland or the Knicks?
I'm going to probably pick the Knicks to win the East.
Okay.
I'm probably going to pick them to win the East. So it kind of depends on if Cleveland is able to overcome their playoff demons. But I'm going to pick the Knicks to win the East. And I'm going to say, like, it's hard to say if a team makes the conference finals and Cleveland is awesome. And
I think anything less than a
7.
hyper competitive Eastern Conference Finals showing where you either win or it's just a crazy competitive series, you've underachieved in this Eastern Conference.
I agree, because the East is too weak. Like,
you lose to Orlando in the second round,
or Atlanta.
That's a failure.
Milwaukee.
Or Detroit, who you beat last year, that's a failure. So
I mean, don't forget, they
could have lost that Detroit series.
They barely beat Detroit.
They could have lost that series.
They barely beat Detroit. Like, that was a 6-game series and they were up 3-1, but like game 4 in Detroit, they won that game on because of a terrible call. That's why they won that game.
Yeah.
If a terrible call at the end of that game is not made, Detroit wins that game and it's 2-2. They barely beat Detroit. Then they lose game 5 to make it 3-2 at home in what could have been a closeout game. And game 6, they barely win. Like, Detroit that was a rough series. That was a close series. Every game, I think the final 5 games of that series were within one possession.
And it was a series where it felt like they had no answers on defense. Like, they were searching. And Detroit was not some sick offense. They were whatever. Again.
But you know what? they found something with their wings defensively in that series, because what happened was for the whole year, it was basically Mikal Bridges on the point of attack and OG on the big forward.
That was a
And they
mistake.
they flipped it for the playoffs.
Yeah.
And you had OG on Cade Cunningham, and you had Mikal Bridges more off the ball. And OG did a great job.
Yeah.
And Bridges in the playoffs reached a level that I think the Knicks were hoping that they were going to get from him and didn't see from him the whole year.
And what's crazy, if you actually look at the game logs, it's not like this guy was like lighting it on fire. It's just he was just so much more impactful than like you felt Mikal Bridges way more in games than you did all regular season. And I think that's what it's gonna take. I think Mikal, OG, they have to take more ownership of the offense, particularly in the regular season, to give these guys, to give Brunson some rest on his legs where he's not just carrying these guys and just eating up possession after possession. I tend to agree with you. I just think, Eastern Conference, the Cavs, I think, are going to be pretty damn good again. I think they're going to be even better than they were last year, which is saying something. And I think, a guy like Mobley, like getting a taste of the postseason and like having a better understanding of what's required of him specifically, you wonder if he's gonna take another leap. So I think them in Cleveland is just obvious. It's like we're not making some like astute observations. That's the class of the East to me, and that's who they should be looking at as their main competitors. And hopefully they get out of the East. But yeah, man,
Who's the team below the Knicks in Cleveland that scares you the most?
To me, it's Orlando by far. If Jalen Suggs is healthy, and I realize that's a big if, I think they're going to like be incredible because he does it like Jalen Suggs to me does for Orlando what Neesmith and Nembhard combined do for Indiana, where it's like the toughness quotient is just turned to 1,000 because of Neesmith and Nembhard. And now like Indiana becomes like not just this pace and finesse team, they become this like physicality team on top of that. I think with Suggs, it's like it's the same, but it's different. It's like it's now turning Orlando into like a sledgehammer, a freaking axe. Like they're gonna hit you like really hard if Suggs is able to stay on the court, and that's to me that's gonna give them an elite quality. Right? Like that physicality, that toughness, that athleticism that they could bring when all of their guys are actually on the floor is something that teams just can't replicate. Like that's just different. And so having some elite quality, whether it's like shooting or in the Magic case, toughness and athleticism, in Indy's case is pace. In Denver's case, it's like insane execution level. Like you need some kind of elite quality to be a scary team. And I think the Magic, to me, on paper anyway, are the team that I think possesses that.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I think I agree. And they can throw a lot of different types of defenders at Brunson, because you can have Suggs guard him, and Suggs is, oh my goodness, he is just
so crazy.
Something else. But then you can also, for like 15 minutes, not more than 15 minutes, but for like 15 minutes, you could be like, all right, Jonathan Isaac, go guard Brunson.
Yeah.
Like Jonathan Isaac can go do it. Jonathan Isaac has guarded Brunson. Jonathan Isaac is such a good Jalen Brunson defender. That dude, if that dude could play more than 15 minutes,
I know
he'd be in the conversation.
He'd be making a lot more money too.
He'd be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year.
I think Detroit. I think people are sleeping on Detroit because of the disjointed nature of the offseason, where they're about to pay Beasley and have to pivot to Duncan Robinson and all of this stuff. I just think the internal improvement of the young guys should get them to a new gear. And so I think Detroit's going to be really good as well. I just think Orlando I don't know, man. I also think people are sleeping on the Bane thing, where people are like, oh, they overpaid him. Like, no, they didn't. This guy is a high quality player at a position of need that like is so glaring and obvious. He so obviously fits that need. And, he's learned to be not a scrub on defense. And so I just think the athletic profile of this team is just something else. And now that they have some quality shooting and Suggs finally got some goddamn shots to fall last year, I'm a big, 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 big Magic believer if they can stay
That makes
healthy.
sense. I'm very intrigued with Atlanta.
I'm intrigued, but I'm not falling for the Atlanta thing again. They burned me too many times, bro.
This might be the time, man.
Maybe.
Look at all of the types of guys they have around Trae
I
Young
know.
now. It's now all of these long, athletic, defensive-minded. Like Dyson Daniels is the best defensive guard in the NBA.
He's insane.
Maybe he's insane.
He's crazy.
Jalen Johnson.
He has to play. That's the thing.
He has to play. He also might be the most underrated player in the NBA right now. Because what they did last year.
Not on this podcast.
What they did last
Me and Rob Mahoney, like, you would swear this guy was goddamn Kevin Garnett, the way Mahoney and he's talking about this dude.
But like what they did last year, allowing him to put the ball, putting the ball in his hands so much more, turning him into more of a facilitator and a passer.
He could do everything.
He could do everything. And they've just surrounded him with these long athletic guys. I actually thought Shea was very encouraging last year, especially from a defensive standpoint.
He's good. He's never going to make nobody's all-star team, but he's going to be an upper echelon role player.
Yes,
I think.
I agree with that. I agree.
Sucks for a number one pick, but
Yeah, but that was the draft. It's not like that was a bad pick. It was just not a good draft. And you know what? The world is sleeping on Kristaps Porzingis. The world is sleeping on Kristaps.
Fred Katz, stop it, man. Stop it, man.
Nope.
Stop it, man.
I don't get it. He had this illness that nobody knew what it was and what was going on. And
is he over it? Is it done? That's the thing. We don't even know that he's gotten rid of it.
We don't, but it's an illness, I feel like an illness probably goes away. It's an illness. It would be like if you got bronchitis and your voice were out and you were like, screw it. I'm gonna power through some podcasts. And everyone was like, Woz really lost it.
He used to be a good podcaster. What happened?
Woz used to have this great voice. He had this iconic podcasting voice and he lost it. And it's like, no, he just had bronchitis. Like, Woz will be fine in a few weeks.
I hope so. I hope you're right.
When Kristaps played, people talk like he's less than a 0 in the playoffs last year. He was like a -3.
He was a horrible player.
He was nothing. But regular season, Kristaps Porzingis was Kristaps. Like he was taking 6 threes a game. He was shooting over 40%. Nobody in the NBA has that protection. Yep. Nobody in the NBA has that height and that quick of a release from 3. He's also able to shoot it from like 32, and he has no conscience whatsoever. He has no conscience at all. He will throw it up anytime from anywhere. He is a special kind of floor spacer. He's a good defender. He's a good rim protector. Like he was having a really good year. If you look at the Second Spectrum analytics during the regular season last year, he was actually the most efficient post-up player in the NBA last year. So now
Kristaps is a good post player too, is what you're telling me.
And that's what I'm telling you. And he may not even start. Like if they have Okongwu starting at center and Kristaps is coming off the bench, and you've got that level of a guy, you're out. Look, he's not going to play a whole year. He never does anymore. He's going to get hurt, and he's going to have to miss time. But like when he plays, other than the playoff run, he's good. And if he never recovers from this illness, then that would be really, really sad. And that would suck for him. And that would be really sad. But I don't know why the default assumption is that like, oh, Kristaps is just going to be sick forever. I don't know why that's the default.
He's got a new strain of mononucleosis, so like
that's fine. That's fine. I had mono. I got over mono. I was falling asleep everywhere. I got mono when I was 17 years old. I fell asleep everywhere. I was going on a trip with my dad. We were going to a bunch of baseball stadiums around the country. It was like the best trip ever. I fell asleep in every car we were in. I fell asleep in every airplane. I fell asleep at a game once. I was falling asleep everywhere. I had mono. And you know what? I'm here today and I'm fine.
All right. Chris Stapps is back with a vengeance. Fred Katz, man. Appreciate you coming on. Not gonna lie, I'm not one of these NBA people who, like, during the offseason is like, oh my God, I'm just itching for games to start back up. I'm really not. Like, we're gonna get 82 from 30 teams. Like, it's fine. However, talking to you today, I'm not gonna lie, got me pumped about the season. So
Good.
Thank you. Thank you for your contribution to the show today.
That's what I'm here for.
And
I'm here to be
my
enthusiastic.
Spirit, please tell the people where they can find your stuff, man.
You can find me on Kristaps Porzingis is going to average 20.com. You can also check out my work at The Athletic. You follow me on Twitter at Fred Katz. And yeah, that's it. I'm not really, you can subscribe to my podcast, Katz and Shoot, patreon.com/Katz and Shoot.
Love that.
It's a Knicks podcast. So if you're a Knicks fan, you want to listen, check that out. You can subscribe to it there, patreon.com/Katz.
Love that you back home with the Knicks, man, because you was part of that OKC mafia over there, that cult over there that Sam Presti is cultivating in OKC. I'm glad that you back with the home team, man. I'm loving that.
Dude, OKC with so many good beat writers that come out of OKC.
100%. My man Tony Slater is killing it.
Yeah.
Obviously Royce Young is just some beasts. Who's the dude that Westbrook was always beefing with?
Barry Trammell?
Yeah.
Barry Trammell, but Brett Dawson, Eric Horn.
Come on. Eric Horn, another beast. Facts.
Yeah.
Anyway, glad to catch up with you, Fred. We'll see you guys next week on the Ringer NBA podcast feed. I have no idea who's going to be hosting the show, but I'm sure it's going to be great. Later, y'all.